Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 140. The Price is Right. Recorded on Friday, April 2nd, 2021 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Oh, righty. Before we get to the news, we'll talk about some announcements we've got coming up. We are going to have a special CRM Zen Show with Raju Vegesna. He's the chief evangelist at Zoho. That's going to be April 16th, 2021 at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Actually, it should be PDT. And we are really looking forward to that. He is he's one of the top guys at Zoho. He speaks at all their events. He's kind of the face of Zoho. He's really out there and great guy. He's going to sit in the whole show, talk about the last 25 years of Zoho, comment on the news, do all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be, we're really, really looking forward to it. And then there are a bunch of other Zoho events coming up. April 13th, you've got Enriching Customer Support Through Automation. This is going to be a Zoho Desk webinar being put on by Zoho. Well worth taking a look at. It's going to be a little later because it's actually put on by the APAC customers. So it's going to be at 9 p.m. if you're on the Pacific Coast, midnight if you're on the East Coast of the United States. But it looks to be a good webinar as well. And with that, let's jump right on into the news. So Zoho is announcing a new pricing format for all products. This is kind of interesting. So we were not going to talk about this on the show because Zoho had said that this was going to drop on Monday. But as I was talking to a customer this morning, at 8 a.m., I was looking at their CRM and they were taking me through it. And then this big pop-up came in saying, hey, guess what? On April 5th, we're announcing some price changes. So we've actually known about this for a while. We've gone back and forth on it. It's not so bad if you are an existing client, and it's not even so bad if you're brand new to Zoho. So kind of take everybody through this here real quick. This is actually a newsletter that is going to be This is actually a letter that was going to go out to all of our clients on Monday morning when the news was supposed to drop. But what we're doing now is we're basically just going to include this in our newsletter. So this will go out to everybody. Tyler, I think we went through 30 to 40 pages of FAQs, Q&As, and everything to distill this down to the 5 bullet points that if you're watching on the webinar, you see right here in front of you. But to sum up, anybody who is a brand new sign up, there will be brand new pricing that will apply to them on April 5th, 2021. I actually have a link to the pricing that will go out in the newsletter. It's not horrible. Zoho One is going up from $35 a month to $45 a month if you're paying for it monthly. And Zoho One is going from $360 a year to $444. So quite frankly, it's always been underpriced for a very long time. That's why the title of the show, The Price is Right, because it seems to be kind of a decent price thing. But you're in much, much better shape if you're an existing Zoho user. So here's how it's going to work for current Zoho users. If you have signed up for the Zoho product before April 5th, 2021, the old price is going to remain in effect till January 17th, 2022. That's I'm going to call this bullet point 2. Bullet point 3, if you were on a trial of Zoho before April 5th and you complete your purchase by the end of April, then the old pricing will also remain in effect till January 17th, 2022. That means if you signed up last week and you've got, a 30-day trial or a 15-day trial, you're still going to be good. You can convert at that old price and you're good to go. And you're going to have that price until January 17th, 2022. So for everybody that meets 1, 2, and 3 on January 17th, 2022, they're going to receive a flat increase of 15%. So this is actually going to be lower than the rest of the world has. So, for example, currently you're going to pay $45 a month for a Zoho One license starting on Monday. But if you're an existing customer, your rate's going to go up 15% if you were paying monthly at $35 a month. So it's only going to go to $40.25. So you'll still actually be paying less than the existing users. So not, and I think a really reasonable price increase on their part. Now, here's kind of the other cool thing. If you are on a monthly plan and you meet conditions 2 and 3. You purchase the product before April 5th, or you're on a trial right now and you sign up before your trial ends. So you're locked in at that old rate. We'll use the Zoho One, for example. You're paying $35 per user per month. You have 10 employees. So you're basically paying $350 a month for those 10 employees, or you're paying $4,200 over the course of a year. You could, since that pricing is locked in until January 17th, on January 15th, or even the 16th, you can go in, click your subscription, and convert it to an annual plan on that day, and you will be locked in at that rate for another year. So you'd pay $3,600 for those 10 employees, and you're going to basically be locked in until January 15th, 2023, at which point the 15% rate increase will go into effect. Little convoluted. We're going to have a new pricing for anybody else coming in, all the old customers. Basically, you're going to get a 15% increase, but you're not going to get it till, at the minimum, you're going to get it January 17th, 2022, but you might be able to push that off until 2023. So that is, did I cover it all, Tyler?
I think you covered it all. Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting. I would advise you to check out the link to see specific app pricing. I mean, if you're on Zoho One, this price increase is basically an inflation adjustment from when they initially rolled out this product, right? They haven't raised the price basically since Zoho One came out years ago. There are a couple apps that if you have them as a standalone are going to have a more significant price jump, like things like books and, some of those if you're signing up new. But yeah, as an overall, I mean, I think the price increase is pretty reasonable, especially for those existing customers, because you're just going to get, a 15% bump on some of these products.
Yep. So there it is. That's the kind of the big price increase. I think, there was a lot of people that were a little upset about this, but honestly, Zoho has been rather underpriced for a very, very long time. And this is still so much cheaper than anything else out there, especially on the Zoho One bundle. And even their price increases, they're relatively modest across the board. So with that, let's get into the news. Zoho Books has added an audit trail. And this is not for the US. I want to say this is for India. Is that what it is?
It looks like Ministry of Corporate Affairs.
The Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Anyway, I believe it's not for US, but if you're out of the US, and I believe this is for India, then you basically will have this ability to have an audit trail. This is kind of interesting. So a lot of accounting systems are what are called double entry. You actually have to have an audit trail, which means every single change you make actually shows up in the audit trail. So if you, most real kind of GAAP accounting software really won't allow you just to delete an entry, right? You have to back it out. You actually have to do a journal entry against it. You have to show it. You have to do those kind of things because, otherwise people can go in and just change their books around willy-nilly. So they basically have added this audit trail in here. Hopefully it's something you can turn on globally, because I think there are a lot of companies that would probably want to do that. And my guess is it will. It doesn't say that it's limited to a specific edition here. So I think for a lot of bookkeepers and accountants, they actually may want to go ahead and turn this on. So
yeah, I mean, you do have, if you pull up a specific record, you can see a timeline, and there's kind of a couple ways to back into this, but this is them kind of memorializing an audit trail with some official functionality. It does look, I spotted a little statement there. It seems like this may be rolling out just for India at first.
Okay.
Right above capabilities there. It looks like it's rolling out for the Indian region.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see this in the US as well. I mean, anything that isn't, involving your accounting, it's just nice to know, right? I mean, in a worst case scenario, if an employee goes rogue or, something bad happens, it's good to have a, undisputable log of all changes, edits, creations, deletes, just in one place to view.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly is nice and clean to be able to just go ahead and delete an old invoice or do those kind of things. But at the same time, not really your generally accepted accounting principles. All righty. And then we've got Zoho Recruiters. Zoho Recruit has now partnered with HackerRank. This is yet another integration for Zoho Recruit. And this is, I believe, HackerRank is for developers, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like an assessment tool. So, within Zoho Recruit, they have a kind of pre-baked module for assessments. And, this is them kind of leveraging an outside tool that might be a little more robust for assessing skills. There's only so much you can do by sharing someone, a recruit form, right, to build an assessment out, though that is nice. If you're looking to hire a full stack developer, you want to actually give them a real test, make sure they know their chops. And I think this is, one of the tools that's oftentimes used to do that.
That's good stuff. Maybe we should take a look at this.
Yeah, it'd be nice. What I would love to see Zoho put out their own deluge assessments in Recruit. It's, it's always difficult to assess those because it's not like a coding language that is really widely known, right? So if you were to go on HackerRank, you're not going to find any pre-made assessments for Deluge, unfortunately. So it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, it's problematic because it's such a different language, right? And so we have a hard time with that. If people know JavaScript, they know PHP, if they know some others, it's kind of helpful, right? We can kind of look at it and go, okay, yeah, you're close, but there is nothing for that right now. And in other Zoho Recruit news, they now have added an analytics module. Now, this is not Zoho Analytics. This is basically just the ability to go in internally inside Zoho Recruit and run some analytics internally on it, which is nice. It used to be, they called all the analytics reporting. Yeah, in CRM they call it reporting, and now in CRM they call it analytics. And it's not analytics; it's not Zoho Analytics. We got a little bit of a naming problem here.
What's actually extra interesting about this one is that the naming structure here in Recruit is actually different than CRM. So in CRM you have reports, which are like a summary table or just like a tabular view. Then you used to have another module called dashboards, which was then renamed to analytics. So in the CRM, if you want a tabular view, you use a report. And if you want a
graphical,
chart or graphical view, you'll go ahead and use the analytics tab. It looks like in Recruit, what they're doing is the reports and dashboards are both going to be sub-modules of analytics. So they're kind of switching up the naming convention again. I mean, I would assume a lot of these reports are going to work pretty similarly to what you see in the CRM, which does give you a nice baseline. Oftentimes for anything outside of basic reporting, we just pull everything into Zoho Analytics and, slice and dice it over there. But being able to put together some quick KPIs and homepage dashboards and things like that is a really nice thing to have for Recruit.
Yeah. And again, a lot of people, especially on the Zoho Recruit product, the whole applicant tracking system. I mean, these are people that basically they just have Zoho Recruit. So they don't have analytics. So fairly nice. I kind of wish they'd rename Zoho Analytics Zoho BI or something like that, though, just so we could kind of separate it out from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, it's extra confusing if you're in CRM Plus specifically, because then you have analytics in your top bar in the CRM, and you have analytics on the left-hand navigation bar.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit tricky in that app specifically.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this is really cool. We talked about this, and I am so stoked. I tried this out. They redid the entire browser extension for Zoho Vault in Chrome and Firefox, and it is slick, dude, and it looks so great, and it's so user friendly, and I believe this completes the entire Zoho Vault makeover.
Yeah,
kind of ready for prime time.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a good tool. Back in January, they redid the web interface. They redid the UI. They renamed a lot of things. So it used to use kind of odd terms like secrets and chambers rather than passwords and folders, making some Harry Potter references. So they changed that up, kind of standardized the naming and UI. But then over here, with the Chrome plugin, it didn't really get that same redo. Right. And so with this, they've kind of applied that same design philosophy and naming convention to the plugin. And yeah, like you're saying, it looks great.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. So, we're going to have to run an internal pilot. One of the things we've done internally here is we've always used 1Password. And the reason has not necessarily been Zoho Vault. It's been that we have to log into customers' accounts all the time. And in order to log into a customer Zoho account, you basically have to be logged out of your Zoho account. And when you're logged out of your Zoho account, well, guess what? Zoho Vault will no longer work because you're logged out of it. But since we moved on to Session Box, and a lot of us have been using Session Box or Ghost Browser, either one of those two, the extensions remain, right? And so it might be time to take. I think you and I at least should run. You, me, Josh, run some internals on this, because
we should. I'm the stubborn one of the group. I still love 1Password, but I need to take a look at this plugin, because that was always the reason that I didn't love Vault, is the plugin didn't get updated as well as the rest of the tool. But this looks really, really nice. I mean,
I was playing with it, and the fill in and the launch and the go, it's just so sweet. I'm like, wow. Nice. I mean, they fixed all of the things that you and I had basically been complaining about, you know? So it's pretty good. And then they did a customer survey report by Zoho Vault, where they kind of went out and they were talking to people about when working remotely, you know, what are the cyber threats you're concerned with? Nothing here out of, you know, do you feel your company has enough tools to manage your network? This is just a little report I wanted to throw in. So if you're getting the newsletter, you know, go ahead and take a look at this. But it's nice to see them doing some research. So they kind of talk about, I know this is a little self-serving about how it talks about you really do need Zoho Vault, quite frankly, and you need to have password protection and the auto saving of passwords. But it's kind of interesting. I think at the top part here, you know, were any new safety measures implemented since everybody had to work remotely? And basically 53% of customers said no, right? Nothing was really done, but 38% actually had new stuff put in place. I think a lot of this has been around VPNs and some other stuff as well. So anyway, interesting little report from Zoho there. Take a look. And this is kind of cool, Tyler. Zoho CRM is adding subforms to the inventory module. So this is basically, if you're in Zoho CRM, you'll see quotes and sales orders and purchase orders and invoices. These are the native Zoho CRM kind of finance modules, if you will. Before, you could not put a subform into them, and now you can. And it seems like this is going to add quite a bit of nifty functionality for those that are actually just using those modules in the CRM. Not a lot of people do. As soon as you kind of gravitate to Zoho Books or Zoho One, these modules get replaced with the much more robust ones inside of the finance suite. But it's a nice option anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of building on what they did previously, where they had changed over the structure that they were using for the standard subform that they had within quotes. So previously you couldn't edit it, you couldn't add any fields, you couldn't do anything to the product table within quotes or sales orders. And they kind of changed that over to function like a subform a little while back. And, you know, now I guess they have decided, you know, if you want more than one, you can just go ahead and drag another one in. I will say one thing that is nice about at least the quotes from the CRM is that the quote template is fully editable with HTML. So, you know, we've had a couple customers over time who, you know, maybe they're doing all their invoicing in QuickBooks, you know, maybe they've got an ERP system. And so, you know, money isn't really going to flow through the CRM, but you just want a tool that you can use to make a gorgeous looking quote and send it out. And the CRM can totally do that for you. So a little bit more power there. Maybe if you had like, you know, items that were charged up front and then items that had the recurring cost, and you wanted to have two different tables on your quote, right? You could go ahead and do that with multiple subforms here.
Yeah, it's super powerful. God, years ago, I remember I built out, I think like I don't know what it was, 10, 15 page quote, right? With graphics and everything. Cause it's basically, like you say, it's just HTML. You are limited though. I want to say you're limited like 10,000 lines of code. Right. I think it kind of caps you off at that point in time. But I do wish you had some more of that customization you're talking about over in Books, you know, where you could just really dial those things in if they were to move it into HTML. But anyway, this is kind of nice in subforms. And man, subforms getting more powerful every day. You can do more with them. We're still missing that one thing, but one day.
Just in email templates. They did add them to analytics though. So I will say, they've done the biggest ones. The big one for me has always been analytics. So once they added that, I give them grace on email templates because, you know, it's not as important as being able to report on them.
All right, I wanted to drop this in. This isn't Zoho news, but it kind of is Zoho news. We talk about LinkMatch all the time. If you're not familiar, LinkMatch is the tool. It's a little plugin for Chrome, Firefox, so basically all the browsers, that allows you, when you are in LinkedIn, to pull that client directly into Zoho CRM. It is $9.99 per user, and I use it every single day. It's the best way to get clients perfect information into the CRM. It's just smooth as can be. Well, they just came out with a pro plan, and it doubles the price. It basically takes you from $9.99 to $19.99. And it gives you one feature. It takes all of your LinkedIn messages and saves them as notes into the CRM associated with that contact. I think for people that are just doing a ton of prospecting inside of LinkedIn and they're constantly communicating with people, this would probably be a pretty good idea. You can actually tie workflows to this, and there's some other things you can do. So it's, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't spend that much time in LinkedIn. I didn't upgrade for this, but we have so many people that listen to the show and so many clients that use LinkMatch. This might be a really neat feature for you. So I wanted to point out this pro plan is out there, and maybe worth taking a look at. Got nothing, Tyler?
I got nothing.
All right, let's move on then. So Zoho Show iOS app has been redesigned. I kind of took a look at this the other day. Super nice. They cleaned up the UI a lot. Just a very, very clean UI now. And its ability, if you're in the iOS app, the ability to sling to an Apple TV or to any Apple TV enabled device. And there's so many of them now. It used to be you had to have an Apple TV, but now you really don't. Most smart TVs come, with Apple, what do they call it? AirPlay. Most of them come with AirPlay ready to go. And you can just sling it right on up there. This app works beautifully with that. I was playing around with this version. We did a webinar yesterday using Zoho Show, where we were doing it on CRM workflows, and I'm just sitting on my phone, actually just slinging it up to the TV and going through it. It works exceptionally well. So nice redesign.
And one little feature they added here on top of the UI is they've included the review tab, so you can actually communicate with other team members, just related to that specific show presentation, just directly from the phone. So another little nice feature update that they rolled in with this UI improvement.
And this is an interesting bit of Zia news. So Zia's NLP-based hawking date time parser is now open source. Explain this to me, Tyler.
That's a good thing. Good question. Let me read through.
You know what an NLP-based parser is? I know I should have studied this one ahead of time and looked up at it. How about chat room? Anybody?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Ah, very good.
Or natural language processing.
It's interesting. So I guess this is something Zoho developed and decided to make open source. I guess so. We probably should have known this before we started the show, but this is why people listen, because we don't know either. Anyway, so whatever this is, it's open source, kids.
It looks like what it's doing as well, if we scroll down on the page a little bit, is if you hit it with like a sentence, like, we should watch this within the next couple days, right? And you were to hit an API with that phrase here, it'll use natural language processing to
parse that,
read the message, figure out, couple of days is the part of that sentence that's related to a date period, and then pull together a couple dates in some standard formatting, and return those for you. It's kind of a nice little bit of functionality. I mean, there's so many tools like this all over the internet that you can just hit with an API call, right? And, get some data returned to you. So really a nice one to see.
Haven't really seen Zoho open source stuff. So they're just going to, I wonder where they're going to put this, over to GitHub. Oh, look at that. They're going to put it over on GitHub. So go grab it for all of you NLP enthusiasts out there who are writing some code. That's some of the more esoteric Zoho news we've ever done right there. All right. And then moving on. Oh, Zoho Desk has prepared an update to the ticket ID. This looks pretty nice. It's just a small little back-end change, but I do think that this change to ticket IDs is really kind of necessary. The ability to kind of customize it yourself, huh?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So basically what they're doing is they're changing the field type. So they're changing it from a numerical value to a string value. Now, there's pros and cons to this. So, it means that customizing it is a little harder. You can really only insert numbers into it. One of the advantages is if you have your ticket ID going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could run a filter on it and say, if it's greater than 5, show me those tickets. It's kind of an interesting change. I think the big one here is that they want you to be able to use prefixes and suffixes in the ticket ID. So that you could be a little more specific. Maybe different departments get a different prefix, right? So
see, that'll be super nice, right? If based upon maybe, how it came in, what department it's going to be able to tag the tickets that way, that's going to help with filtering too. Mm-hmm. And I would think you're going to have prefix and suffix, but do you think that the actual ticket is going to be alphanumeric or just numeric? They're not really letting us know. I bet you the actual ticket number in between the prefix and the suffix is just going to be numeric. So it'll probably help with your searches even a little more, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're going to roll that out in June 2021. So the answers to all of our questions are just a few months away. And then another story here. If you didn't know, Zoho campaigns, their update was completely reversed. So there was a lot of, we covered this in depth on last week's show, but they officially sent out a reversal on this. And if you missed it, everything that was taken away from you in campaigns should be back, and it will be that way for the foreseeable future. And if you have more questions on that, just go ahead and hit last week's show. We actually have a link. You can jump right to it wherever it is if you go over to YouTube. And then this was really cool. Zoho has put out a site for 25 years of Zoho. And I think this was put out a little while ago, or I think a couple of weeks ago, but it's pretty nice. Kind of covers everything that Zoho does. And there's just some great stuff in here. The part I was really impressed with was their values and convictions section, where they kind of talk about, redefining capital. And I know that Raju just put out a thing on, what did he call it? Conscious capitalism, something like that. They're really talking about their ideals and, talk about their pricing, why their pricing so low. It's not because they want to make it cheap. It's they want to be able to make it so that it's something for everybody. So everybody has access to these tools. The fact that Zoho has never taken a single bit of investment capital and has just built themselves by just investing in over and over again in their people and in their products and in their infrastructure. Anyway, this is a site that kind of covers all of that, what their overall thoughts are and how they do it. And you just go to zoho.com/25 and this will kind of talk about their whole 25 years.
And it's always kind of an interesting thing, just, looking at some of the decisions Zoho makes and, they're able to get away with not, one of their values and convictions here, if we scroll down a little bit, is that they're going to leave money on the table, right? They're going to know that they could charge more for certain things. They're going to know that they could squeeze you a little more, but they make the choice not to do that, right, intentionally. And that's, something that once you've taken venture capital money, you are not allowed to do anymore, right? So it's a lot of their decisions over time have built into the culture and position that they have now. And I think, that's a big contributor, is that they're not obligated by a, third-party investor to squeeze you quite so much.
Yeah, they have no obligations whatsoever. I remember when they first priced out Zoho One, internally there was it was too cheap, and it was basically all Sridhar. Boom, we're doing it. This is going to be the pricing. We want people to adopt our products, and we want to give them to everybody's hands. So, pretty nice. So if you want to check that out, zoho.com/25. And I want to have, as previously discussed on the show, I've had this brought up a couple of times. So I promised we would revisit Zoho Voice. We have it. We've been using it internally among 2 or 3 of us. It's actually a great product as far as dialing back and forth telephony, the dashboards, all of that, but it is not ready for prime time. It actually is a Zoho product, Zoho Voice, that lacks integration with every single other Zoho application. It has no Zoho telephony support built into it. It's coming soon. So everybody just kind of needs to hold off on Zoho Voice until it actually lives up to its name and it's integrated into the other Zoho apps. There are also a few other crazy things. You can't port numbers. So if Zoho Voice was perfect right now and it did everything you want, it was the best software in the world, well, gosh darn, you can't get your phone numbers ported over, so you can't really use it all that well. So anyway, there are a few things with it. I do like it a lot, though. The other thing we discovered that we didn't know with Zoho Voice is if you're in Zoho 1 and you're in the admin panel and you click on Marketplace, you have a choice to go into the Marketplace or you have a choice to go into the telephony. When you click on telephony, it says, hey, hook up your whatever telephony you have. Oh, you don't have any telephony, use Zoho telephony based on Twilio. That's different. That's a completely different telephony solution. I thought that when the Zoho Voice came out, it was just them really formalizing what's been sitting in Zoho 1 for the last 6 months. That's not the case. So Zoho, you're real close. I think you need to get the two applications together and get this integration done. But I will tell you, from a dialer perspective, from an interface perspective, from a call quality perspective, it's all based on Twilio. I think Zoho Voices as well. Really, really good stuff. Mm-hmm. So
and I think this is one that we actually are, excited to adopt ourselves. So expect more updates over time as some of these integrations roll out, because we're always in telephony limbo ourselves, right? We've kind of tried out a lot of different providers and, their relevant integrations with Zoho. And, we've kind of settled on RingCentral as the best, but it still has its own drawbacks. So we're really cheering on Zoho Voice here, because we think if they dial in that integration and make it super clean and nice, it's going to be a big winner.
It really is. And I'm really happy to announce Sure Payroll for Zoho Books. Here at the CRM Zen Show in Zenatta, we like to take a bullet for you guys and test these things ahead of time. We do it with Zoho Mail. We do it with all the products. We move the whole company to them. Everybody suffers. This is a big decision. We decided to move off of ADP to Sure Payroll so we could test it. And we're not going to leave it. It's absolutely great. The pricing is great. It's basically $30 per month is the base fee, and then it's $5 per employee per month. That's all the charges there are. It has excellent Zoho Books integration. Absolutely amazing. I actually was on with the Sure Payroll rep. We were running through things. We went through the first payroll together. We wanted to make sure everything was great. By the way, customer support is amazing on this. And then they said, okay, we went through the integration together. The integration is seamless. It's just one of those things, click, authenticate with Zoho Books. And that's it. You tell it what you can go through and you'll set up all of your chart of accounts. So where you want all of the various, fees, where you want state taxes to go, federal taxes to go, 1099 compensation, W-2 compensation, other fees, all of those kind of things. You basically set all of that up. And it links directly into Zoho Books, goes right into your chart of accounts. And once you kind of go through this little 10-minute setup phase, and by the way, I didn't like the way our chart of accounts was set up, and I'm in the middle of the integration. And so I paused it, went over to Zoho Books, reconfigured the chart of accounts so it would better match the categories they were saying, came back, instantly pulled it in. So all of the new charts were there, matched it all up. Boom, it creates a journal entry instantaneously in Zoho Books, right to the checking account that payroll's coming out of. Fantastic. And I think everybody got paid today, so that's a good thing as well. I did check that this morning. So Sure Payroll is a paychecks company. So you've got that going for you. It's not some small little payroll company out here. The only big caveat with them is that they will not do anything over 100 employees. So you kind of need to be an under 100 employee company. But wow, just beautiful integration, and so much better than ADP. ADP actually doesn't even, one of the things I liked about him is there was a single withdrawal from the checking account, whereas ADP comes in like 6 different withdrawals for all the different categories, and you're going to categorize them all manually. And even if you had done a journal entry, it doesn't necessarily match up. You'd have to do 7 journal entries. This is one perfect journal entry. Anyway, it's a winner. So maybe this will be another discussion. We always say we're going to come back and talk about things in the past after we've tried them. So we'll call this as previously discussed. So anyway, good stuff.
Very nice.
Yeah, really happy with really happy with that. And I'm done talking, Tyler. That brings us to our implementation of the week.
Yeah, so this was a really interesting one. So, basically we had a use case here where, you have let's say you're working a deal, and a variety of different stakeholders to that deal might need to receive some confidential information. And before they receive that, you're obligated to get an NDA signed from any individual person who's going to receive that confidential info. And, so we're kind of working through this, and we found that you could do this manually with Zoho, right? You'd have to go in, you'd have to create your Zoho Sign doc one by one for each person who needs to receive it, right? Then once they sign it, you'd need to grab your attachment, spin up a CRM email template and send it out. And so that's all fine and well, but you might have 5, 10, 20 different people that need to, receive an NDA. And so what we kind of put together was basically within the deal, we created a link to a little form that someone could fill out to say, hey, I'm interested in this information. Please send me an NDA. And the minute that they fill out that form, we run a little integration that runs back to that CRM deal and creates, like an interested party record. Kind of like a little child record under the deal. The minute that that record is created, we actually run an automation that goes out to Zoho Sign and sends a customized NDA based on that deal, right? So we can pull in specific points from the deal, maybe the company name, maybe really any information that you want into that sign template. Once that person signs, because Zoho Sign actually has its own little API settings, and we can send webhooks, we basically trigger a webhook from that NDA the second that it's signed, which comes back to the deal. It goes and it looks at those interested contacts or interested targets and figures out, okay, which one of these signed this NDA, right? Then from there, it updates that record to say this person has now signed the NDA, which triggers another deluge function to then go and look at that opportunity, find a specific attachment related to that opportunity, just based on a naming convention, and then actually attach that record or attach that file to a CRM email template and send it out automatically. We're kind of leveraging the new CRM v2.1 APIs that they put out, where you can actually now call a CRM email template in a deluge function, which, as an aside, without nerding out on that is just fantastic. It works great. They just released it a couple weeks ago, and it's just seamless to send these out. And it's really, at the end of the day, what this does is, the second that someone signals that they're interested, you just hit them with the NDA, 10 seconds later, right? So there's no delay of them saying, hey, I'm interested. Then we get around to sending it tomorrow, but now they're out of office. And so they get back to it on Monday, but now it's bottom of their inbox, right? So you basically just automate each step in this process and just instantly hit them with the next actionable thing once they complete the previous step. So basically this runs from a simple form saying, yes, I'm interested in this. They get an NDA, they sign it, and then they get the confidential info just emailed directly to them like moments later. Kind of uses a lot of different
automation
tools.
Here. There's
100% automation. You set
never
it and
touched.
forget it. Yeah, you really just set it and forget it.
As soon as the customer expresses interest, that's it, all the way to signing. Wow.
And the interesting thing about this is that there's a lot of use cases with it. So like you could take that form, right? Because what we do, it's a tool that we don't use too much in the CRM, but you can go ahead and create a link, right, that lives in every single deal right over in the left-hand bar under related lists. And in that link, you can actually incorporate merge tags. So, basically this is a form with some hidden fields for the deal ID, for the deal name. And so, one of the things we're actually doing with this is you can pre-create that whole link and then go and bring it into campaigns. right? Because in campaigns, you can actually use merge tags for the CRM contact ID and the CRM account ID. So you could actually blast out a form related to a particular deal to gauge interest of like 1,000 people at once through campaigns. And any of them who go ahead and submit that form would just instantly get the NDA and be logged against the deal. This could kind of be done on like a individual basis too. In this case, there can be many, many interested parties in a particular deal based on the specific space that this client is in. But at the end of the day, it's super robust in the sense that you can shoot out a form link with some pre-filled values and then just daisy chain the whole rest of the process together. It basically uses form integrations, routes through flow to capture the Zoho Sign element, and then that final email delivery goes through Deluge. I will say the one little odd thing that we did learn about this when you're using that CRM V 2.1 action to send the email is to send a basic email. It's really just what you would expect. You basically hit it with a template ID and a record ID to a specific endpoint. It just goes out super, super easy. If you do want to attach a file, it gets a little bit more interesting in the sense that you have to download the file, upload it to something called Zoho File Share, which is, I think, just like a backend tool that they're using. Uploading it to Zoho File Share gets you a special encrypted file ID, and you have to use that one to attach it to the email. So if you're going to try this at home, just know that you're going to have to run through a step of uploading it to Zoho File Share. And if you Google that, there's API documentation for it. But it was just something that we had never really bumped into. But just specifically for this new API call to send a CRM email template, if you want that attachment, you're going to have to go through the cloud, the ZFS, Zoho File Share, and hit that first. We'll say Zoho support was super helpful on that. I was just running into a wall. I chatted them, they kind of pointed me in the right direction, and then we were able to
had we even heard of that?
it.
I've never heard of Zoho File Share.
I'd never heard of it before either. Because Josh has actually done, he's done a bunch of things with attachments before and never has had to use it. It specifically seems like it's the first time we bumped into it being a requirement that it goes through there to get this special ID. Because when you pull a file, you get like the related file ID. Then you get one version of like a unique file ID, but that's not the one you need for the email template itself. It has to go through kind of like a special layer in order to do it. But at the end of the day, you're basically able to just automate step by step, through this whole process.
Yeah, I put this in the top 5 of the implementations. This was a slip one, man.
We're finding more and more like that, just having your CRM, having Writer, and having Sign all just accessible via API with Deluge is just so powerful. Like in this case, I don't actually use Writer. I'm just using a Sign template because it's simple info that goes in there. It's basically like deal name and like 3 fields from the deal that actually need to go into the NDA itself. Right. So we just set that up as a native Sign template. But you could do this exact same process with like a very complicated mail merge document if you just routed it through Writer first. So it's really, really powerful.
Nice.
The only thing that this doesn't do is it doesn't attach the file in the standard Zoho Sign documents related list that you get when you turn on the Sign integration. So we just built our own version of that. We just built a custom module and
to house all the documents.
It just houses houses links. To keep things lightweight and minimize attachment size, we just house links that go out to Zoho Sign in there.
Nice.
So one little oddity, you're just not able to hit their pre-made related list. You have to build your own when you're doing it this way.
So you're saving it over in WorkDrive?
In this case, we're not hitting WorkDrive. You could save it to WorkDrive. In this case, particularly, the documents are just going to live in Sign, and then we're just going to link out to them from the deal record.
That's clean. It's just as clean as well.
Yeah.
Nice. All righty. Sweet, Tyler. Let's move on to this week's reads. Sustainable capitalism, not conscious capitalism. That's like conscious uncoupling, right? That would be if I was Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow. But instead of conscious uncoupling, we'll have sustain. How did I get to there from sustainable capitalism? I don't know how my mind works. I need help. Anyway, Raju put this article out. This is over at Small Business Trends. Basically reiterating kind of a lot of what we were talking about on the Zoho 25-year page, where they talk about, what is sustainable capitalism and, how can you do this? And, the whole local hubs, recruiting talent, the whole rural, movement that Zoho is trying to enable with their tools, where people don't have to live in cities and drive, 30 miles to go to work every day. So the sustainable capitalism, cost savings, quality of life, environmental sustainability, sustain local economies, and harness global connectivity. Man, they are pounding this message home. Anyway, really well-written article by Raju.
And this has been a kind of a consistent thing. I mean, I know that especially at the kind of upturn of the pandemic, Sridhar was talking a lot about, what do you call it? Transnational globalism or localism, transnational localism. Basically the idea of just with the types of software tools now, you don't need to have all your employees live in downtown San Francisco. They can really live anywhere and do this type of work, and so many jobs are just going that way. And, we're able to invest in areas of the country or the world that just, haven't really had investment recently. And Zoho definitely puts their money where their mouth is with all the colleges they're building and things that they're doing over in India. It's really impressive.
Yeah. And then another article here, this was over at Diginomica. I like this guy, Jon Reed. He's writing virtual events, the highs and lows. With hybrid event decks, enterprise events remain a failure of imagination. And this is, it's funny because I have sat in on so many virtual events over the last year, and they are all horrible. The only reason this comes out is he basically says the only event he sat in all year that got it right was Zoho Day. Which is a big analyst day for Zoho. And I thought that was kind of interesting. He talks about how they did it right, live engagement, the entire thing. And, a lot of them, they're just kind of pre-recorded pablum. So I thought this was pretty interesting. I don't know, did you get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read through this one. I mean, I will say it's one of those things with Zoho, and you can't say enough about how good Showtime is, other than, just good. Some of the little issues we have with like the recordings and things, but the tool itself is just so good, so powerful to be able to do multimedia presentations, kick things around, bring presenters in and out so seamlessly. I mean, you got to have the right tools to put on a good virtual event, and Zoho has built a lot of those internally at this point for themselves.
Yeah, and I think this is a good article if you're planning on putting an event. This isn't just a Zoho puff piece. I mean, this is just kind of detail of what works and what doesn't work in the virtual event world. Hopefully we're moving away from these, but I think virtual events are going to be here with us in a much bigger way than they ever were in the past. And they're going to be around to stay.
It's interesting. I mean, not talking about Zoho, but there's been a little bit of a trend of, certain companies. I know recently Activision, a big games publisher, actually laid off a lot of their physical events team because they had to switch a lot of their events to digital last year, and they found worked pretty much just as well. They still got just as much interest. You almost open up the door to more people, right? Because not everyone's going to travel for an event. So I would say at the very least, I think hybrid digital events are going to stay, right? Or maybe you'll be able to go, but it's going to also be a digital experience because you really open your net up, right? I mean, if we were doing this podcast in a specific location and you had to go there to see it live, you probably wouldn't have any live attendees. So, there's some benefits to being digital in that way.
Yeah, there are. And hopefully people get a little better at them, and we'll see where they go. Anyway, good articles. Thank you to Jon Reed and Raju. All right. And then over on Zenatta, we have got an article on calendar management, organizing your life. This is something we preach here internally. If you ever could see our schedules, everything goes on the schedules. Everything goes on the calendar, so you can kind of manage things. And we've been talking about it for you got this nice morning announcements. We've got some good examples in here. And I think it's a nice article kind of uncovering how you can basically use your calendar to manage your life. And by the way, with the new Zoho calendar, which is getting better and better, it's still kind of in beta right now, but it's looking great. I'm excited to see that kind of get all finished up here. And then we got another article on why you need HR management software, and kind of cut through all of that. So take a look at those to articles as well. Alrighty, and then that brings us to then we have found one more resource guide. Can you believe it? Everything recruiters need to know about GDPR. We continue to scour the web for these, so were able to add another GDPR or another resource guide to our list. We're at least finding one a week. We haven't petered out yet. So
yeah, and this is actually an important one. I mean, you oftentimes think about GDPR when it comes to marketing, but all those same rules apply when it goes to recruiting as well. So it's important. It might be something that recruiting teams haven't really been as exposed to. Where I know that anyone who's doing email marketing has kind of had GDPR hammered into them at this point, but still equally important if you are doing some digital recruiting.
Yeah, and even though it's an EU regulation, it's pretty much adopted in most of North America. I've noticed this point in time. I mean, California has some similar laws to it, but if you're
not moving this way already, if you're kind of thinking this is a Europe thing and you don't have to worry about it, like similar laws will be passed in the US before too long. So it's something you want to start preparing for internally.
Yep. And then our application of the week, this is interesting. This actually comes from a new client, Tyler, that you've been working with. And then actually they reached out to me randomly the same week to talk to us about engaging as a partner. And I know, the application is just really slick, but
it's so
tell them
cool.
what we're talking about here.
It is so cool. So I've not seen anything like this for Zoho. Basically what this thing is doing, and
let's give them the name of the application.
Okay, yeah. So for the listeners online, the application is called PhoneBurner. It is a telephony tool that plugs right into the CRM, and basically what this is designed to do, it's got some kind of key features, like it has local area code dialing. You can get some dedicated inbound numbers, call transferring, things like that. But really the special sauce with this is you can just dial, you can fly through a list. So basically the way that it works is you can pull up a custom view, right? So let's say you have a custom view in leads and it's today's new leads, right? You go ahead and select 100 of those leads in your custom view and a little button will pop in that says PhoneBurner. You click that button, it pops up the PhoneBurner interface and it's dialing. Right? If you get connected with them, then you just talk to them. You can take notes. Those go to the CRM. You can add tasks. Those go to the CRM. The call itself gets logged as a call. Let's say you don't get in touch with them. You can drop a voicemail that's pre-recorded. You can send an email that's pre-designed from the CRM, right? It's got Zapier integration, so you can do custom integration actions after the fact. I mean, if you're doing outbound and you're doing a lot of dialing, I have not seen a tool like this for Zoho. I mean, a lot of companies always claim, how it'll increase productivity. This one will really do that, right? I mean, even just think about how beneficial it is to cut out having to leave voicemails, right? Every voicemail that you leave, just pre-recording it and dropping it. Every follow-up email that you would send after a missed call, just do it automatically, right? I mean, I will say it's not cheap. It's something like, I think, $140 a month, right? So it's something that's worth doing if outbound is a big part of your business model. If you're just doing a little bit of outbound here and there when you need some more leads, probably not worth it, right? Because it is not cheap. But
super cheap if this is what you're doing, right? Yeah. If you've got a sales guy there, it's super cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, this thing was all over the map. I mean, we hadn't really had any engagement with it. I wasn't even sure I was aware of it. I think I was, but not much. Then this client was using it. They've been using it for a while. Then this week, there was an entire guest blog just came out on March 31st by PhoneBurner. And they're kind of talking about it. So I don't know, this integration, it looks like it was originally released December 9th, 2020. So maybe this is relatively new. But I'll tell you what, the client loves it and you guys seem to be, you seem rather impressed with it.
Yeah, it's rock solid. Their partner team probably got in touch with you because I emailed them the moment that I saw this. I got in touch with them because, again, it's one of those tools that not a lot of our clients would need, right? But the ones that need it, this is what you want. This is the one right here, and so
and it does. it spoofs, right? It spoofs numbers.
It can do local. You can have it do
does local area code, right?
Yeah.
Which irritates me, but it does that. It does all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's got dedicated anyway, very, very cool. So
very, very cool.
Always good to see something that we can get behind there. Hey, and then we've got our tip of the week. We didn't have a tip of the week, so we have 50 tips of the week for you. Tyler and I did a webinar yesterday on Zoho CRM workflows, beginner and advanced workflows for your business needs. Anyway, there's a lot here. We covered every single thing you would ever want to do in a CRM workflow, right down to webhooks, custom functions, everything. So we managed to talk for 48 minutes just on workflows, and that was cramming it in, I think, as fast as we could. So anyway, if you would like some tips, if you'd like I don't know if we're going to break these into separate tips because, man, we got we covered a lot there, but there is everything you would ever want to know about doing workflows in Zoho CRM. So head on over to our YouTube channel. And with that, let's move to our Q&A. What do we have?
One question here from Kevin. Does Vault work well on Safari? I do not believe the new plugin is released for Safari at this time. So probably want to hold off for now if Safari is your primary browser.
Yeah, and we have one kind of more of a statement. We were talking around calendars, and Jessica was saying we struggle with our Office 365 calendar sync to CRM. That's a Microsoft problem. So they won't allow you to actually sync their main calendar to CRM. You actually have to create a separate calendar, and that separate calendar can sync back and forth. The problem is that invites go to the main calendar. They don't go to the separate calendar. And everything you're struggling with has been something that's been around for a very long time. And it's unfortunate. Office 365 has just always, it's been a difficult integration from a calendar perspective. Anyway, and then Alyssa, we're saying, I don't know, Rich, if you figured this out or not, if you're still online. It looks like he's gone, but he said Zoho Books has an audit log. Then he said, oh, maybe not. So
yeah, so it looks like they currently, I pulled up that link. They've got it for India, UK, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and EU countries, but not yet for the US.
Got it.
So Zoho, if you're listening, let's get that in the US. It's something that cannot hurt, right? To have something like that here, just for traceability of any edits.
All right. And with that, we're going to wrap it up, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you have any questions or comments, you can hit us up over at zenatta.com or crmzen.com, and it's info at either one of those. And we look forward to hearing from you.
And on the website is where we'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platforms and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.